it's more a problem of just like, how do I deal with situations like this in a way that it can be productive rather than like reductive for me and my brand and my channel and stuff like that. Like, how do I?
Well, you're gonna have to mix. You're gonna have to mix what you do, which is comedy and truth telling, journalism, and also production value into that somehow. But at the end of the day, if you have to be careful not to. I don't want to say not to touch certain subjects, but like even coming close to certain subjects, you just get tossed no matter what. Like if you do a piece on Mr. Girl or one of these other people that are just like so inherently toxic just as a nature of who they are, it's almost like you can't come at it objectively and be like, well, hey, look, guys, like just because he wrote a song, he's not. The fact of you saying that is just going to get you fucking roasted, just being in there. And there'll be a certain amount of people be like, Turkey Tom, pedophile defender, just as a result of covering that. And there is no way around it. There is no... Yeah, go ahead.
I think when you're doing stuff, you just have to decide like what kind of content creator do you want to be. Like there are some people who do... I'm not going to say any names because I feel like I don't watch everybody's content, so I don't know. But there are some people who cover, they like YouTube commentary where they just talk about like interesting YouTubers or kind of like some lol cows or things that have happened or whatever. But it's very sterilized. Like it'll be people that are universally hated. It'll be over subject matter that's like settled. So you don't have an ongoing debate of did they or didn't they. And it'll be like, it's just kind of like a fun adventure. Like, oh, cool. Let's go watch like Into the Mind of this guy, blah, blah, blah. Like that's fun. When you jump into stuff that's more recent and more controversial, and when the topics are more, they have more gravity, it's like rape and all that shit, you're always going to catch flack from somewhere. And that can be part of your brand. This is Turkey Tom, and he talks about some things that are like ongoing or it could be like really dicey, but that's going to close you off to some audiences and open you up to other audiences. And then you just have to be ready to fight through that. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. And, ultimately it's like the brand I guess I built myself off is not the family-friendly guy who's just willing to always cover stuff that's commonly accepted in the popular zeitgeist. It's
sure,
like,
but again, you gotta
narrative.
don't think family-friendly because there's different stuff at play here. So, for instance, you could make a channel where you go over like the top 10 rapists from 2020 and how horrible they all were.
Okay, to be clear, I don't mean family-friendly. Yeah. I guess what I actually mean by saying that, I guess I misspoke.
Sure.
Is there's a way to talk about things where the situation's already settled and you won't catch any flack for it. Mm-hmm. And then there's a way to talk about things where you're sort of diving into it, dissecting it, pulling it apart, and you're trying to get at the true narrative. And I know the difference you mean. I mean, someone like Oompaville, like, typically is someone who is going to be just covering things in like, he's not trying to rile anyone up, right? He's just making interesting content that's already kind of settled. Yeah. Versus, once in a while, I'll find a story like with Katie Bugs or with this kind of thing where it's a hotly contested issue and a lot of people are, looking at it. And it's kind of about dissecting the narrative and figuring out what the truth is. And in the process of that, I mean, I find it personally, I don't know, intellectually stimulating or something like that. I find it, enriching to go through it. But, obviously, the audience to a certain extent, I've definitely been rewarded with that. But there's also this, there's this big downside, which is just people saying that you defend rapists and pedophiles. And
you also have to keep in mind, too, another thing that influences what the public is going to respond to this is like pre-existing fan bases as well. So like the super mega topic, that was legitimately a contentious topic. It seems like that might even be similar to what we're talking about here because you've got guys that are being accused of like sexual assault or pressure or whatever other fucking stupid weird shit that was happening. But the difference there is that one, there's way more hard evidence available for you to go through. Two, it seemed like there was no solid evidence of them doing anything bad at all. So like for Too Mad, you've got a difficulty because there's not a lot of hard evidence out there because it was so weird. And two, there was hard evidence of him doing some bad stuff, pretty bad stuff already. And then three, Super Mega had like a giant fan base amongst which you could have this conversation and debate that could be supportive or responsive to new information coming out. Too Mad, my understanding, I could be wrong, but my understanding is by the end of Too Mad's career, he basically destroyed everything. I don't think he had any fan base at all, did he? Anywhere?
Did,
yeah. So all of these things are also like playing into how this dynamic is evolving too. So there's a lot of things you got to keep in mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. It's just, it's like, people really just want that kind of like very fun, like black and white. Like,
of course.
He's a rapist or he's innocent. And I mean, like neither is true, but you don't really get a lot of benefit, I feel like, at least in the short term. I don't know. From,
let me doom you a little bit here real quick. You know who the Mark Rober dude is, right?
Yeah.
he's like the, you know, he makes science videos and everyone loves him, right? There's actually people, like there's communities of people that actually hate this guy. I just Googled it. Like, if he has communities of people that hate him, just give it up. You're fucked. You know that, right? Like that dude who makes science videos to like help kids and like feed starving people in Africa. He has haters. Mr. Beast has haters the same way. And Vsauce has haters. There is no hope for you ever.
Yeah, but hold on. Turkey Tom's issue isn't having haters. His issue is the type of haters. So, like, if people were to come out and they would have said, like, oh, Turkey Tom's video on this subject was dog shit. I don't think he looked into this at all. And I think that, like, he's probably just biased because he likes Too Bad's content or whatever, because he grew up watching him. Like, I think Turkey would be okay with that. I think Tom's issue is that people are saying, like, oh, crazy, you're defending a pedophile? Interesting that you think that pedophilia...
But that's, like, literally par for the course. Like, that
well, it is a different type of hate. There's a different type of...
It's a different type of hate because, like, there's nothing substantive to even fucking say to these people that could convince them otherwise. Like there's nothing I can say to them where they'd be like, oh, you're right, because they're not even engaging with the material in the first place. They didn't watch the video.
And there's no element of truth to it as well. So like if somebody said like, oh, like I hate Destiny because he's like, you know, like he shouts at people, he calls people retarded or whatever, and it's like, okay, sure, I think it's a dumb reason, but I can understand that. But as soon as like, oh, I hate Destiny because he's a child, it's like, okay, well that's way different because that's not even remotely true.
But what about if they only saw the clip of you with the little Tykes thing and that's all they know? Then you are the child. And that's why they hate you, right?
You completely miswent what I said, but sure.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, there you go.
So
but for these people, it's like seeing a fucking thumbnail and then just like knowing Turkey Tom bad is enough. I'm sorry, Kelly, you can go.
I'm gonna kill you. So I spoke to you a bit about this yesterday, but I didn't ask, like, how much have you spoken to Jameski or any of the others that sort of gave supporting statements?
Not much. I tried to talk to Jameski. I asked him I said at first I would do an interview publicly, and then I said, can we just have a private call to like talk about this and like try to figure out what's going on so I can better understand it, and he just got nothing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. Have you tried speaking to any of the others that were mentioned?
As far as the others, I mean, I've talked to a few personal friends of Too Mad, but Isabella Goldybell, she left the internet. She's totally off, seemingly unwilling to talk to anyone about it. And any of the other people that James named, he kept anonymous for whatever reason. And their details around them are so vague that you can't even begin to guess what is going on here. The only other person that was involved in the initial statement that Jameski made when he said that there was he said that there's a 13-year-old girl in a mental hospital that Too Mad groomed. That 13-year-old, I mean, obviously, you can't always trust a child as to what they know, but she publicly stated that she had never had any sexual interactions with Too Mad, so that's all I have from that.
Okay, why did he get that misconception? Do you know?
Why James got that misconception? I have no idea.
And he wasn't really willing to explain any of this stuff to you?
No, the 13-year-old thing wasn't even mentioned in the document, but it was initially mentioned in his first tweet. So once again, like I don't fucking understand. How can anyone understand?
It would have been fine to say this was probably a mistake and redact it, right? It's just, well, it is a very long document, so I have...
It's very long. Like, reading through it is extremely frustrating, because once again, like he said, oh, I'm going to clear everything up. And now I have way more questions.
And he's not been willing to talk to you? Have you tried since?
I've messaged him twice asking to have a chat, and he hasn't even been active on Twitter whatsoever. So
yeah, I did notice that. I don't know. That is strange. I mean, I don't know him. I know some people that know him. Did you speak to anybody that that backed up that he was being like harassed at TwitchCon? Like, do you know how that would have happened? Like, you mean like he like harassed him online instead of in person?
Yeah, basically, there were a few people who corroborated that James was scared. That's what they said. They said he was scared that Too Mad might do something. In the document, his explanation of the TwitchCon stuff was that Too Mad made a bunch of basically ominous threats that made him think that he was being threatened, and that's why he was scared that something was going on.
So the threats were made online, most likely.
Correct. No, 1,000% they were made online because they were in different places. TwitchCon, at that point was in Vegas, and I think Too Mad was in California. So.
Okay.
But then he claims that Too Mad was on his way to go there, and then he turned around when he realized there was like some kind of police response, and he turned around in his second unmarked Tesla that he secretly owned, Jason Bourne style. Like, once again, there's a lot that isn't proven or explained in this document that I have a very hard time parsing through. And when I've tried to ask Jameskey about it. I mean, literally the day the document was posted, I messaged him twice being like, yo, can we have a chat? And nothing.
Yeah, I wonder if he's off the internet because of stress related to this as well. But like, when it comes to the response, what are you bothered by? Is it like community response or is it like peer response?
It's not peer response. I've not gotten any criticism.
Wait, I'm sorry, hold on. Just as a real quick thing. Wait,
peer.
stress from this is not a legitimate reason to leave. That would like be the least acceptable reason to leave the internet. I don't know why that would ever be. Like,
well, I'm not saying whether or not it's acceptable. I'm just speculating on why he's left the internet.
oh, sure. I mean, I feel like if he knows he's going to drop a huge thing like this, he should be ready to follow it up with something, I would imagine.
But he said in the document, like, this was his final word, and he's not going to follow it up, and also he's never going to talk about it on YouTube because that's not the place for it or something, which is just like, fuck off, dude.
Oof. Sounds pretty fake, but okay, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard for me to understand what the fuck is going on.
Do the things that relate to the law, are you sure that they're lies versus just a misunderstanding of the law? Because, yeah, I don't know.
What specifically? The thing is, like,
we were just talking about when I came in.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of it could be a misunderstanding of the law, and that's basically what I say in the video. Is like, there's a few possibilities. One, Jameskey's lying. Two, he's really, really dumb and doesn't understand the legal system.
To be fair, a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
Well,
true.
but if he's making strong statements about it, then I mean that's not really again acceptable. Like,
I don't think that's an acceptable excuse. It's just like trying to understand his intentions. I think is important in the situation.
yeah, but then also him
together.
like getting things wrong about it strengthens the idea that he's just lying, right? Because if he was actually engaging with the system here, he would know not to say these things. He would know how things work for this, right?
Yeah. Someone in chat says, ask Tom if he thinks James is a schizo. I mean, not on the level of Too Mad, but it seems like he was a pretty paranoid person, considering that he saw a bullet hole in his window and immediately thought Too Mad did this, and then had no actual evidence of Too Mad shooting a fucking gun through his window. So yeah.
Did he have any other reason for thinking that? Did like Too Mad send any messages at the same time as he got a bullet through his window or anything?
Not specifically. Too Mad did say a lot of crazy shit. Like, he did say a lot of crazy shit. But there wasn't like a specific DM where he was like, I'm going to go to your house and put a bullet in your window, and then it ended up there. Like, it wasn't anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you say it's not peer response, it's like community response? You're getting like negative comments or something? Or what?
No, it's not negative comments. It's literally just tweets. And it's not like a thing where it's like taking a hit to my ego, but it's just like, how do I dispel this kind of narrative and like just deal with it, you know? I guess is the question, but I guess I've kind of got an answer.
There's also like the fact that, I don't know, is it worth sticking your neck out for this guy in this instance when nobody really knows anything, right?
Well, I guess I didn't see it as sticking my neck out. I just saw it as doing what I always do, which is tell the f***ing story.
I mean, if you went further than you are now, I think it was fine to like cover it as a story.
Well, if I were to say Too Mad did nothing wrong, then like obviously that would be sticking my neck out, but that's never something I would say because that's just like completely untrue.
Yeah, sure, but like if you feel the need to go into great detail as to why X, Y, or Z may or may not be true, people will see it as a defense of him, regardless of the fact that you think that you're being fair and balanced. I know that seems unreasonable, but it might not help the annoying tweets that you're getting.
Well, yeah. I mean, once again, it's less about the idea of an annoying tweet and it's more about this perception that I defend rapists and pedophiles, which I would like never want to do because I'm not a freak. But yeah, I mean, obviously, in these situations, people will come away with some perception of that, especially when it says contentious is Too Mad. The main question I had, you know, going into the conversation here, is basically just how do I counter narratives like this? But you know, I guess I got an answer.
Yeah, you just gotta keep making content and push, I guess, as hard as you think you can against it, and yep, hopefully over time you prevail. That's really all you can do. There's not like a shortcut, easy way to do it. If there was, like, politicians would implement this to control narratives, or countries would implement this to control narratives, but narrative control is a really complicated thing that you have to fight for a lot.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe I need to have a Discord server and pay more attention to Twitter so I can bully people out of their opinions. I don't know. Maybe that's what I have to do.
Maybe. The most important thing is just if you do a response, make sure that it's comprehensive, meaning you're responding to everything you feel like you need to. Make sure it's coherent, meaning you've given the evidence that you need to. And then make sure that it's like condensed, like, so just like one video. Don't like, oh, well, I responded to this point on Twitter, and oh, I responded to this point actually at 6 minutes on my live stream. That, like, make sure it's all in one place. Yeah. So like condensed, comprehensive, coherent, like make sure all of these things are met, and then you've got one response, and then if people bring it up in the future, it's easy for your fans or other people to go like, oh, well, he did a video on this, look at this, it's all in here, boom, and then you're kind of done, and then you move on from it. You just keep making content and go. Yeah. But there's always going to be some level of people.
I'm probably already at that stage because like the video itself is that. So
yeah. Oh yeah, and then also stop smoking. That's the most important thing you can do.
You know what? I'm pleased to announce I have not smoked a cigarette in 1 month.
Okay? I don't believe you, but I'm proud of that.
It's true.
How are you trying to quit?
I've been doing Zins.
Oh god, that fucking shit.
What is it? Okay. What the f is that, Dan?
Well, that's like the new hip way of doing it. Back in my day, we had to vape first, and then we had to do like the disgusting Walgreens like nicotine lozenges. Now you guys just have like Swedish
You will never
snooze.
see me exhaling a colored cloud.
They're not colored. I don't think they've ever been colored.
Any kind of this like cloud type thing. I don't f with the cloud thing. Okay.
Why? How is it so much worse or better than this?
It's fucking gay, dude. It's just gay. It's extremely gay.
I'm a master of quitting cigarettes, by the way.
You're a master?
I've done it 3 times.
Oh, so you didn't actually quit, you just stopped a few times.
Yeah, but now we're done. For real, for real. You know, here's the thing. If you actually, if you stay off cigarettes long enough, once you're not even addicted to nicotine anymore, so right now you're still in the throes of it. So eventually what you're going to need to do, because I don't think, that shit only comes in 6 milligram, right? The snooze
I think you can get a higher one, but the one that I have is 6, yeah.
Okay. What you're going to eventually need to do if you want to get off of it, and you might not want to get off of it, I don't know, is you'll need to switch to nicotine lozenges, which they have
I've
at
had
Walgreens.
those before, yeah.
Yeah. So you switch from that, and then you go from a 6 to a 3, and it's hard for the first few days, but then you're okay. And then you go from the 3 to a 1.5, and then eventually you're going to like a small dosage plus like an Altoid or something. And then, so eventually that's how I was able to get off of it the last time. And then what you'll find is that after a really long time of not using it, if you do try to smoke again, because there's always going to be that desire, if you do try a cigarette again, all of a sudden it's nothing like you remember, and it tastes like shit. And as long as you don't go for that second puff, it kind of gets associated in your mind that like, oh, this is actually not that good anymore, at least for as far as cigarettes going. So yeah, that would be my suggestion. So just keep doing what you're doing. I would say especially for cigarettes, don't go back to it because you probably don't realize how much you smell like shit to everyone around you. No, like you can't. No, but they tell you, but you can't possibly know how all-encompassing and horrible the smell of someone who smokes cigarettes is. When they walk in the room, you instantly fucking know. And it's not like a kind of a nice smell, like going for a walk on a nice evening and someone smoking a cigar on their porch. It's not that smell. It just smells like fucking poor white trash, like someone's about to get beaten and NASCAR is going to be on in the background. It's fucking shit. And you can never realize it. So don't go back to it if for any reason of how much you're going to smell like shit, and no one will tell you.
The worst effect of it has been my car smells crazy. My car smells crazy, and I don't know if it's something I can. I don't even know if I can fix it.
You can. Do you have a nice car? Or do you have a piece of shit?
It's a nice car.
Okay, then the best way to do this, but be careful. Okay, go on Amazon. You want to buy something called an ozone generator. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to leave that in your car overnight running with all the windows kind of shut, and then it should kill out all the smell completely. But do not go in there. That shit can kill you.
Why do you say be careful?
Because ozone generation can kill you if you're in the car with it.
So it's not going to kill me as soon as
if you're not in the car. If you're not in the car, like, no.
Well, okay, so when I turn it off and then I get in the car, am I going to inhale that shit and die?
Well, I would suggest that first you maybe open the doors and let it air out a little bit. So
okay. And this is a real technique. This is
a real technique. I can actually, there's a guy called Sam Crack. He does car restorations, or I guess you could say that. Basically, he buys cars at salvage auctions and tries to find good deals. So he'll find like a totaled McLaren and then realize, oh, it just needs like this software update in X, and now I have like $100,000 car, right? And one of the videos he did go over was getting rid of the smell of smoke inside of a car, because it is a huge negative. And I'll send you that video.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Dan. I do appreciate that. Now, what were you thinking about with this whole podcast thing?
Where do I put? Where are you watching, by the way? DGG or YouTube? I'll post the link just so you can watch it later.
YouTube.
Okay. There you go. What am I thinking about for the podcast stuff? I'm not sure. I'm probably going to stop drinking as much as I do during it. But
do you want me to come up with like a list of stuff that I'd like to talk about, or do you want to do that?
Wait, is Turkey coming onto an episode?
Do you have things that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, there's always stuff I want to talk about. I guess Erudite messaged me and asked about the beginning of May.
Wait. Which podcast are we talking about here? Are you guys? Are you and Erudite on the same page?
I mean, I guess it's good. It's probably for anything else, unless you think that you have a big political.
She said Bridges.
Why? Yeah. Why would Erudite be emailing for?
I don't know.
Well, she said Bridges. Maybe anything else too if Dan is down, is what she said.
Oh, okay.
Do you feel like this is a good Bridges guest for you, Steve?
Yeah, of course.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But they can also do both. Oh, yeah. we should have Adam. Adam will be here for a few days. We should absolutely have him.
Adam, your movie sucks?
Yeah, but don't worry about it.
Oh.
That's my friend.
What do you mean don't worry about it?
That's my friend. Don't worry about him.
Okay.
I don't know. The podcast is still like at the very beginning, but honestly, the reception is fucking amazing on it compared to what I thought it would be. Because it really, I mean, a lot of people, the complaints that we get are like, hey, why are you even doing this? This is just literally what you and Destiny normally do, just shitpost on Discord. But it's a little bit different to have it in person. But the views.
Something I've realized through YouTube is that presentation goes a long way with viewership, surprisingly. So people do care about little things like the camera quality being shitty, or it not being in a studio or something like that. People take formats and conversations a lot more seriously when it looks nice. So I think there's definitely a benefit to you having like a little studio space where you can record these, because it just, it makes it fresher for the eyes, and people are,
it gives it a different format. It's something for people to tune into that you can kind of make, some sort of event once a week where maybe you hold back on some content or something along those lines. But I don't know. I like that it's kind of unstructured. I like that it's fun. I did a podcast with Steve like 100 years ago, and it was very formal, and we had to go and find guests, and we had to have a big list of topics. Me and Steve had like a admin panel where we would press a button where one of us wanted to ask a question next, so we stopped talking over each other. It was like this whole it was a whole thing, and it was work, and it became less and less fun. And I like the idea that we can just kind of, I don't want to say shit post, but we can go over stuff, have fun.
I mean, that's always been the appeal to this stream stuff anyway, right? It's not that it's like a super rigid format. It's that it's kind of scuffed, but it makes it work.
Exactly. I mean, some of the bigger podcasts out there are not, super segmented. Like, can we introduce some segmented shit? Like, I don't know, gambling on fucking 0 day to expiration calls on Nvidia or something like that. Like, sure. Like, Steven liked the idea of like doing something on Zillow because we're both kind of finance guys a little bit. Or
I think there definitely needs to be like, while you can shitpost and stuff within segments and like before and after, I think there does need to be like a few topics you pick and kind of go deep on. I think that definitely is a thing that people would appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some people like stop switching around so much. Yeah, I mean,
stop talking over clips.
No, actually, people. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but it's really only content creators that hate that shit. For the most part, I know this is going to seem stupid to you. Fucking dumb YouTube chatters and dumb DGGers love it when you do that shit, and I mean, you can see that more in person when you watch it live and watch live chat reactions. That said, yeah, there's definitely people who fucking hate it, and then there's people who actually fucking love it. It's weird. Like, look at Fresh and Fit with the constant Don DeMarco. Like, they're not doing it for their own benefit. Like, their fucking audience likes it.
I guess I hate that show.
I don't like it either. When I'm watching something and someone's talking over it, I'd be like, shut the fuck up. But there's just different people that do whatever. And also, if I've had a few drinks, I guess I don't give a fuck anyways. But, you know, we'll figure it out. I think the big thing, the big topic, I already told Steve that we're going to go over, because it's kind of hard for us to find stuff that we massively disagree on, is there was a big hit piece on Dr. K. And this, you know, this could be a whole
Isn't this
video
like
for
the
you.
third hit piece on Dr. K?
Yeah, but this is one that's credible because it's coming from another
a
YouTube
hit piece,
doctor.
or do you just mean the? You mean the? Wasn't it a conversation that both of them had?
It seemed to be pretty antagonistic from Dr. Mike to Dr. K. This isn't like a
Like
fun
Dr. Mike
conversation.
called out Dr. K? What the poop?
That's what I've been told.
Oh.
That's why I've been waiting for Steve to watch it so I can watch it with him on stream and then argue with him later on anything else about it. But essentially, there's a lot of reasons to hate Dr. K if you're in my camp. Steven loves the guy, can do no fucking wrong.
It wasn't a hit piece. Yeah, I don't know why Dan is calling it a hit piece. I don't know what he's referring to. It was a different
Well, I
video.
mean,
I think he just is talking about the conversation the two of them had.
Yeah, I am talking about that. The video between Dr. K and whatever. But anyway, there's a ton of people that are a huge fan. Like even now, if you go in chat, there'll be people that are so mad that you're saying something negative about the guy. And then there's people like, yes, I can't stand that guy. It's it just is what it is. Now, personally, I don't like him. And I think he's doing a bad thing. And that's my take. And then you'll have a lot of people who disagree with that. Steven's one of those people that disagrees with that. And there's a lot of shit to criticize this guy for. And unfortunately, there was like a fucking psyop. Mr. Girl put out like a hit piece, and it's like the worst possible person you ever want to put a hit piece out on anyone, because it's.
I know there was that hit piece,
discredited.
and then there was also a few years ago there was a YouTuber named Slush made a video about Dr. K where he criticized him. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and then I think maybe Chud Logic did something as well on it.
Yeah.
But
Is this a good call out? Like, do you think it has merit?
well, I haven't watched the video yet. I was only told that it's a hit piece, so maybe it's not a hit piece. But you know, I saw a clip where he was going in on him pretty hard about the Ayurveda stuff. So that's all I've seen is one clip about that. I think that shit is for the most part pretty much unexcusable with whatever. I mean, unless we're really going to be accepting like crystals and other shit as like therapy. But I mean, you know, whatever. I basically put it. What's the? It's like in the same camp for me as like homeopathic shit. So there's that stuff.
Wait, he's gay?
Yeah. He said what?
Just kidding. Wait. Okay. From the podcast, I found out something really crazy.
Sure.
Dan, you're Jewish. What's up with that?
I don't know, man. It's fucking wild. Imagine just being one of the.
Like, imagine being a fucking Jew. What the fuck?
Especially in 2024. It's crazy shit.
Yeah, it's kind of late for that. Like, I feel like you should be back with the, whenever the Golem was like a meme, like, you know.
I don't know. Like, I feel like maybe the premium years, maybe like the early 2000s, I guess. Somewhere around there.
I feel like Judaism is more of like a 2000 thing. I feel like it's kind of passe.
No, it's always very cool. Except, you know,
It's
right now there's a lot of haters. Now, I'm only talking about the cool parts. Unfortunately, all the religious psychos, you know, I'm not on board with any of it. Essentially, all the religious shit I think is cringe.
All right, hey, do you guys have anything else? Anything else for the three of you guys in here? Because I got like a ton of videos and shit to watch today. We're not talking about anything right now.
We need to fucking talk about something, man. You've gone too far. And I mean too fucking far. It's one thing to attack me. It's one thing to troll me. It's one thing to make a, you know, a ha-ha joke, very fucking funny. Oh, we had your shit, blah, blah, funny shit. This isn't a game, Marty. You're fucking with people's lives here, you sick fuck.
Some people get the short end of the stick when it comes to genetics, and not all of them deal with it gracefully. Sure, congenital issues can account for some shortcomings, but how many? When does someone cross the line, and despite their defects, when can they be held accountable for their actions? A case study of this gray area is Ohio's very own Cyrax, often referred to as the dollar store Chris Chan, or Asmongold's long-lost twin. Over the course of a decade, Cyrax has gone from an aspiring musician to trying to stay out of jail for things like abusing his grandmother, and sending some very unfortunate messages to people who definitely shouldn't have received them. So in today's video, I aim to answer the question, who the hell is Cyrax?
I don't know what that means. All right, go.
Like many other lolcows, Cyrax didn't just come about in a vacuum. If anything, he is the closest we've ever come to a purebred lolcow. Born Patrick Smith on September 20th, 1990, Cyrax claims he was born at just 26 weeks, weighing only 1 pound and 12 ounces, with only 1 kidney and 1.5 lungs, and with 1 blind lazy eye. At least in part, this is because his mother, Connie Lobdell, was herself challenged to some extent. Cyrax's grandmother, Sally, claimed she was fully disabled, although it's unclear what that means, while his father described her as someone with ADHD and another unnamed condition. He specified that it took him 3 years to teach her how to drive a car, which suggests some degree of intellectual limitation. Many speculate he suffers from fetal alcohol syndrome, though due to Connie's potentially impaired condition, there's hardly any way to hold her accountable for that. His father, on the other hand, is a very different story. In 1994, Rupel Mark Smith, the original legal name of Cyrax Sr., was arrested. While accounts on this vary, with Cyrax himself saying his father went to jail the day he was born, the records available put his arrest at when Cyrax would have been 3 or 4 years old. On July 26, a 14-year-old girl was raped by an unknown man who chased her off a bike path for around 50 feet. According to a person who identified as the unnamed victim, he'd already been stalking her prior to the assault, which meant it was premeditated and suggestive that he'd probably done something like this before. She gave a detailed description of her attacker and his blue 10-speed bike to the police, who prepared a composite sketch. When presented with photo lineups, the victim picked Rupel out of both of them. The sketch was then published in the local newspaper and ended up being seen by Rupel himself just 2 days after the attack. Fortunately, the intellectual acumen of the Smith lineage was already being exhibited, as Rupel decided to call the police himself and identify himself as extremely similar to the man depicted, only to say he wasn't responsible and had an alibi. Regardless, this was enough for the person taking his call to report him to their supervisor, leading an officer to be sent to where Rupel was residing. Upon arriving at the residence, the blue 10-speed bike was seen, an exact match for the one that was at the crime scene. Once the officer became more accusatory toward Rupel, his responses were incriminating. Apparently, while he didn't outright confess to the assault, he said something tantamount to an admission of kidnapping, dragging the victim across the road against her will. After that, Rupel asked for an attorney, but what he said at that point was enough for an arrest and trial, during which a jury convicted him of kidnapping, sexual assault, and sexual abuse of a minor. He attempted to appeal his convictions, but ultimately failed and had to serve a total of 20 years in prison. This is relevant because it meant that, with Rupel out of the picture due to his arrest, and Connie being unfit to care for a child due to her disability, someone else would have to raise Cyrax. That someone ended up being his grandmother, Sally, who moved Patrick out of Alaska and into her humble home in Akron, Ohio. Oddly enough, Sally had been in a strangely similar situation to that of Rupel's, only on the receiving end. As we can learn from an article in a local Alaskan newspaper, Rupel's father, and Sally's first husband, is a man named William Bill Smith, born in 1941. According to public records, Sally was born in 1952, and Rupel was born in 1969, meaning she was 17 when she had him and just 14 when she got married to Bill, who was 25 years old, the exact same age Rupel had been when he committed his crime. What's worse is that Rupel had older siblings, though records on how many are difficult to find. We know that at least one of them was also named Bill, who ended up simultaneously suffering from AIDS and cancer until he passed away in 2015. Just so you know, when I say Cyrax is a purebred lolcow, I mean generations of extremely unfortunate circumstances have coalesced to bring him forth. Via newspaper clippings of one of Sally's brother's obituary, we can determine her maiden name is Arnson, but when she took Cyrax in to raise him, she was married to another man named Gordon Wilkins and took his last name, so she decided to rename Cyrax accordingly, calling him by the name he went on to use for the entirety of his life.
This is Chance Finley Wilkins talking to Nicholas Spiegler. What you fail to realize, Nick, is that I made you.
From Patrick Smith to Chance Wilkins, from Alaska to Ohio, Cyrax wasn't even 5 and was already undergoing some radical transformations. In his recollection, he had a very rough time at school, with people bullying him and giving him swirlies due to his appearance.
I was supposed to die the day that I was born. And when I was born with 1 kidney and 1.5 lungs. And, growing up through school, I did get picked on. I got bullied way more than most. I got judged, I got beat up every day. I was that kid that was an outcast in high school.
But as we will learn in full detail, Chance isn't an entirely reliable narrator, since contrary to his claims, it seems he did indeed have friends during his school years. In an interview with Elspeth, a friend of Cyrax's from high school, she said,
"We met quite literally in high school. We had a mutual friend in common, and that's how we met."
According to Elspeth, Chance and his group of friends bonded over their interest in dancing, so much so that she herself is a trained ballet dancer. She recalls an instance where they both performed a piece called The Dueling Dancers at the school's talent show, but unfortunately there's no footage of this event. When they weren't at school, they usually met up and hung out at the house of their aforementioned friend, Billy Seiler. Billy was a short, legally blind African-American student, and Cyrax described him as a closer friend than the rest of the group. After all, Billy was the one who introduced him to Linkin Park, one of Cyrax's favorite bands. Months before any of his followers investigated Cyrax's story with Billy, Cyrax spontaneously brought it up, saying,
"Unfortunately, when I was 16 to 17 years old, around that time period, I was actually by one of my best friends from high school. Now, at the time, I didn't know that he was gay. I had actually met this kid. His name was Billy Seiler. We had gone to the same high school together, and me and him grew really, really close. We were super cool with each other."
This is quite a claim to make, especially to bring it up as lightly as Cyrax did. This was enough to rouse suspicion, but as time went on, the situation only worsened. In another retelling, Cyrax mentioned that his family spoke to the school about what Billy supposedly did to him, and the school responded by kicking Cyrax out so it wouldn't happen again.
"They know what Billy did. That's why they removed me from that school, so it didn't happen to me again."
Though this isn't impossible, it sounds unlikely that the victim of such a circumstance would be the one getting kicked out of the school. Worse yet was the fact that Cyrax originally claimed to have been 16 or 17 when this took place, but he only changed high schools after 2009, when he would have been 19, meaning the time frame doesn't really add up. This discrepancy was confirmed by Cyrax himself, who later changed it and said that, while Billy was underage, he himself was not.
Cyrax, how are you not so pissed though at that school? I think it's insane. You should have never been expelled.
We tried, and that's the thing. That's the thing. We tried to fight it, but due to the fact that he was underage and I was overage.
Oh my god, dude. I don't understand that. That's fucking bullshit.
People became suspicious, and since Cyrax had already given this person's name out, they decided to look further into it. The information was enough to find Billy's Facebook and contact him, informing him of what Cyrax claimed happened during high school. Once contact was established, what Cyrax allegedly did to Billy became a matter of public knowledge.
So we were up in my room, it was late at night, probably 1 o'clock on a weekday. When it gets hot, guys tend to take off their shirts and everything. I was either on my belly on the floor, or I think I was searching for something, and the next thing I know is and at this point, I had never given any type of consent whatsoever.
This all but confirmed in the eyes of many that at the ripe age of either 18 or 19 years old, Cyrax had assaulted a disabled minor. What a great way to start the story. We have little to no information on what else Chance was up to during the 2000s, but we do know what his family was up to. His mother, Connie, remarried in 2002 and was living with a man named Michael. But just a few years later, in 2007, she tragically passed away while using a wood stove that didn't have proper piping, and because of this, it resulted in a house fire. Perhaps adding to the tragedy was the fact that she passed away on Cyrax's 17th birthday. A little over a year later, the house Sally was living in with Chance was broken into, though there's no way to know if the perpetrator was ever found. In late 2009 to early 2010, Cyrax created his first ever YouTube channel, but it was nothing to write home about besides a few AMVs he made with freeware, and definitely stole from other people's content while doing so. The years of 2010 and 2011 were mostly uneventful, though Cyrax made a few Facebook posts that contributed to the notion that he wasn't as bullied as he said he was, since he had multiple girlfriends during this period. He also shows his funnier side with jokes such as, "Santa, ho ho ho, me. Damn, Santa has 3 hoes? What a man whore. One at a time, and they better get paid extra. You so fat and old, nasty." It's only in 2012 that things get intense, with Cyrax abusing his grandmother, Sally, in a document retrieved via the Freedom of Information Act, because, yes, his followers are that dedicated. We have information on every time the police have been called in relation to Cyrax's house, and on the 14th of February, a domestic fight was reported by Sally's brother, William Arnson. Chance is described as out of control and fighting with his mom before leaving the house and walking toward the freeway. It appears he attempted to choke or strangle his grandmother grandmother, but fortunately the report cites no injuries and no weapons. To this day, we don't know what exactly this was about or what happened, but we do have this mugshot to make up for it. In 2012, we have the first significant bouts of online activity from Cyrax, who at this time went under the name of DJ Shadowblade, which he misspelled a variety of ways. One of these early manifestations was his war cry. Supposedly, this was him beating Chester Bennington's record of longest scream, though what Chance did here hardly qualifies as a scream, more of, I don't know. Sounds like me when the drive-thru takes longer than 3 minutes. A year later, despite being a whopping 23 years old and still in high school, we have a couple of videos from this time period, wherein he's doing basic parkour moves like handstands and wall jumps. Cyrax claimed he had a GPA that was just a couple of points short of 4.0 and was at the top of his class, but they didn't allow him to graduate because he didn't have a perfect 4.0 GPA and was too ugly to graduate, so he eventually got kicked out of the school altogether. Another claim of his was that in this school, he was also severely bullied to the point where a bunch of students pushed him from a balcony. This, too, appears to be a lie, as explained by his aunt, who gave an interview explaining what had happened.
It was lunchtime, and these kids dared him that he couldn't jump something from the balcony.
The backflip,
okay?
the backflip. Okay, hold on. I had a question about this. After certain head injuries, like, people have dramatic personality changes at times. Do you feel like after the fucking head injury, like...
What head injury? He didn't hit his head.
He smacked his head off he was like on the second floor when he did the backflip. It was like off the second floor.
He didn't hit his head. He landed on his side and broke his arm.
You see, in order to cover up from having taken a dare and stupidly jumping off of a balcony, he made up a fake story about the other kids having pushed him off of it. He went as far as lying to the police and actually accusing the other students of having done it, but when it turned out that he was lying, he was promptly expelled from the school, and his GPA being below 1 probably didn't help. In his later videos, he enjoyed telling this story as the source of his inexplicable talent, as if hitting his head on the concrete, which he didn't do since he landed on his side, made him into a musician. As is proven by his very own early uploads, this is a lie since he was already in the music grind, and particularly in the Juggalo scene as early as 2012. One of his earliest uploads still up on the internet has him long-windedly complaining about how strict and rule-oriented the Juggalo community was. This is most likely due to the fact that Cyrax only feigned to be a Juggalo in order to be a part of the community and find friends, but had no idea what being a Juggalo was about, didn't listen to ICP or any artists related to them, and this was eventually proven by Juggalos who decided to quiz him on his ICP knowledge.
So I was just curious, what was your first album that you got into the clowns?
Believe it or not, dude, it was probably, I'm trying to think. I want to say either Jekyll Brothers or Little Rocks. I can't remember which one it was that got me in.
So what did the cover look like?
Really, dude? Do you know how many years it's been since I've listened to that shit?
Still, it didn't prevent him from claiming he was in the family in the past decade. How dysfunctional do you have to be in order to struggle to meet the criteria for a Juggalo? The only community with lower standards than theirs is probably furries. No offense, just saying. While very little has been archived from this era due to how frequently Cyrax deletes everything he has online, only to make a new account with a different name the following day, judging from his very old and empty LinkedIn page, he claims to be a part of a Juggalo record label called Killa Clown Sounds ever since May of 2009. As we can learn from his Facebook, his only prior occupations were abstract artist and painter at C. Wilkins Art and, soldier's son. Given RuPaul's state of affairs, it's clear this is talking about Sally's husband at the time, Gordon Wilkins, who gave Chance his last name. Once again, deferring to his Facebook posts, he claimed to have dropped his first album, Blood on My Hands, in 2010, under the name of Kid Darkness. It looks like his sister was responsible for getting him into contact with the owner of the label, Eric Scrubolo, who signed Cyrax out of pity. A little later on, it seems Chance also did a brief stint as a Christian rock artist, and if this poster is anything resembling genuine, he performed somewhere. I really wish we had footage of this stuff, but in compensation, we have Cyrax expressing his religious fervor in his very unique fashion. I swear, man, I wish I could give that no-good Satan and his demons a piece of my fist and foot in their mouths and shut them up for good. In a comment he left under this post, he also seems to believe that God killed the devil at some point. I'm not sure if that's in the Bible or if it's in his headcanon, but for a man as devoted to Cyrax, I won't be the one to cast doubt on his theological knowledge. In another post from this time, he lamented his lack of success in the music industry, saying, "My name is Chance Wilkins, I'm 21 years old, with my mom working 2 days a week waiting tables in a little restaurant, and it's still not being enough to fully get by on bills, and me going through many hardships in life, I decided to do something to help all that. So I decided to get into music, and many people have judged me because I auto-tune my real voice to make it sound better, but I don't care, I still keep going, and I always will. I don't ask for much, I just ask for my dream to come true so I can help my family." Kind of a sweet message, actually. It must have been really stressful to carry his family on his back, since it's during this period that he begins developing his infamous skullet. He was convinced he was going to get paid up to $5 grand and that he'd be in every music magazine, but unfortunately this never happened. Even before people were actively trolling him with fake promises of fame and fortune for his music, Cyrax proves to truly be one of a kind, as he tricks himself into these delusions for no reason without any outside interference. Another of his uploads from 2012 is a video called Inside the Shadows, which has Cyrax giving an unrequested tour of his house to his non-existent audience. It's very aptly named since the lighting is horrid and you can barely make out what he's trying to show you. While the majority of content this early is completely lost and most likely rotting in the cursed confines of Cyrax's hard drive, we do have an archive song he worked on. Given his slurring drawl is nowhere to be heard during the track, and the beat sounds like if you converted a brain hemorrhage into an MP3, we can presume he was the producer. Check it out for yourself.
Party, 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 party.
The smell of it is. In August, he claimed he was working on an album with fellow Juggalo rapper Spitfire the Twisted Killer, who doesn't seem to actually exist. In early 2012, it appears he either was or wanted to be involved with a girl named Hannah, as we can see in a post of his where he apologizes to her for some unspecified wrongdoings of his, and performatively says she's the reason he didn't do something drastic the night prior. This appeal wouldn't stick though, and a while later, he not only starts dating, but supposedly gets engaged to a new girl named Heather, who appears to also be very into Juggalo culture and works on music with Cyrax under the name of Shadowcat Hashlet. The names are so fire. In another music-related post, Cyrax posted what he calls lyrics, but given it was decently formatted and didn't have a typo in every other word, it's obviously a ripped poem from a guy called Mark Slaughter, which we know because he forgot to take out the copyright notice at the bottom. It's clear he was very invested in his Juggalo phase, but didn't know exactly how to express it. For example, in one post where he shared a picture of a little girl with progeria, his way of being nice to her was saying he considers her a juggalette. But music wasn't the only artistic venue of Cyrax, as in late 2012, he announced he was working on a manga series called Spectorbs, which was going to release in early to mid 2013, which did not happen. As time progresses, Chance becomes increasingly erratic. Perhaps because he learned the absolute basics of how to make music, it gave him an unrequited ego boost he had no idea how to handle. But early signs of the behavior he eventually became very well known for also started to show. We have this early 2013 clip of him addressing someone who apparently insulted one of his friends.
Talking all this crap and shit. This guy seems to think I'm hiding behind words, but I'm not. You hear that, Aaron? I'm not hiding behind anything, little man. You want a little man? Look at you. You're nothing but a punk-ass baby. Hiding behind his own damn words, is too afraid to stand up to me like a real man.
Anyone with decent online experience knows there's no greater waste of time than engaging in keyboard warriorism, not to mention the fact that people who are belligerent online tend to be trolls that you stand nothing to gain from interacting with. But obviously this is hard to explain to